Ahoy! Captain Benzie here, coming at you with another Intel report, the series that takes the latest advancements in GDI technology and tries to find the best ways to blow them up. Before we continue, please note that these videos are supported purely by ad revenue and my most excellent Patreons. If you enjoy my content or find it useful, please hit like and subscribe, as these both help me out considerably. Check out the rest of my channel and consider becoming a Patreon yourself. Let me know your thoughts on this video and the new unit in the comments below and on the Gaming Galleon Discord. These Intel reports show you how the unit works, give you suggested decks to run them, and then have a shoutcasted replay to showcase it at the end. I've put times in the description to jump to each of these sections, as I'm aware that some of my viewers don't stick around to see the exciting finale. Now, it seems that the units in Rivals are getting weirder and weirder by the day, so today we are looking at the MSV. The Mobile Support Vehicle, MSV for short, brings GDI vehicle support to the front lines. Much like its construction cousin, the MCV, the Mobile Support Vehicle can quickly deploy into structure on the front lines. Any vehicles that visit the MSV leave with juiced up engines and more powerful guns. The MSV is a vehicle built from the GDI War Factory. It is slow moving and has no weaponry of any kind, but it does have an absolute boatload of health. To look for combat potential in the MSV is to miss its purpose entirely, however. Instead, the MSV exists to significantly improve nearby friendly vehicles. Once in position, the MSV deploys and digs in, much like an artillery or MLRS unit would, and then applies a glowing aura to any hex adjacent to it. Any friendly vehicle to enter that aura receives a significant buff to both movement speed and attack speed, which lasts for a few seconds. At time of writing, this duration is 6 seconds, and yes, it stacks with Jackson's heroic charge. Now, the effects of this buff are absolutely terrifying. A mammoth tank under it will gladly obliterate 2 Titans, and a buffed slingshot will rinse even a boosted Orca bomber out of the sky. The MSV stops you having to double up on counters by making each unit you have twice as effective. This essentially means that the MSV becomes more valuable the more units that it's buffing. This scaling power can make the MSV feel underwhelming at first if you only have one other vehicle active, but by time you're buffing 2 or 3 units, it becomes a terrifying threat. I like to set the MSV up and then dance my vehicles into range to grab the buff, then with the increased movement speed, redeploy this newly empowered unit to where it's most needed. Once an MSV is out on the field, it takes one heck of a barrage to pull it down. It is a vehicle, so it takes most damage from units like tanks, but even missile and laser squads will destroy it with enough time. But that's the point. Time. An MSV takes a long time to be destroyed, and if it's well positioned, there's a boosted counter inbound. Now, of course, the MSV works best in a deck that uses a lot of vehicles. It's a bit of a double-edged sword, of course, though. On one hand, the more vehicles you use, the more value you'll get from your MSV. On the other hand, this means that your deck suffers key weaknesses. Wait, or does it? Let's look at how to run the MSV in your own deck. Now, the first thing I'd suggest is, of course, a full War Factory build, so that every unit in your deck can benefit from the MSV. Now, of course, this means that War Dogs are usually going to be your opening unit, scouting and checking out the battlefield. Now, depending on your opponent's next move, you can then either move into a counter or start to set up your MSV. It should be noted that War Dogs, as vehicles, do benefit from the MSV buff, and it actually makes their DPS quite scary, which is something I never thought I would say about War Dogs, especially combined with their tanky health. Once the MSV is out, you need to creep it into a position where your units can best benefit. Now, this doesn't necessarily need to be somewhere that you can park units next to it, but it does need to be close enough for those vehicles to dip into range to get the buff. I like to place this somewhere sort of middle and equidistant from pads. Now, buffed Shatterers, for example, will absolutely wreck any infantry that comes their way, even Grenadiers and Marauders. Buffed Slingshots rip and tear aircraft out of the sky at a frightening rate. Buffed Predators are a sight to behold and pound enemy vehicles to smoking wreckage at an extraordinary rate. Pitbulls even dance around the battlefield, firing off shots like they're armed with a Gatling rocket launcher. Now in short, with the MSV buff, each of these units punches considerably above its own weight. You don't need 2 slingshots to take out heavy air, 1 will do it. You don't need 2 shatterers to wreck marauders or grenadiers, again, 1 of them will do it. You get the idea. Now, you can swap the Predator in this deck for a few things should you so wish. Firstly, the MLRS is a decent alternative to the Predator. You'll lose some mobility, but gain a heavy barrage that will keep vehicles at bay, and with boosted slingshots around, good luck trying to get to it. Now, if you're good at stalling pads, you could even splash a tech unit like Sandstorms. As vehicles, these benefit from the MSV buff too, and deal terrifying damage to vehicles and aircraft, and they can redeploy swiftly. Of course, with the recent Rivals race as well, it's worth a great option, a great time for you now to show off that new skin. Titans and Disruptors get the benefit, but I don't see much use for them in this slot. Perhaps an MSV plus Jackson boosted Disruptor could do some terrifying things to the enemy base. I mean, it requires a bit of a setup, but it might work, and it'd be hilarious if it does. Mammoths again receive the buff from an MSV, and can be unbelievably, hard to kill. But they're just so expensive that it can be hard to recommend this. Let me know if you use any of these tech units successfully. Sandstorms are the one I would recommend. Now for a commander, Liang is your best bet here. The repair drone works wonders on nearly all of your units nicely. It can be used to steal pads in a pinch, and ultimately it just really helps cement in the idea of never having to build more than 1 of each unit to counter. The MSV makes each unit hit way above its weight, and the repair drone keeps them in the field near indefinitely, if used well. That said, Jackson's heroic charge effect does stack with the MSV, and the effects of having both buffs on the same unit are hilariously monstrous. A double boosted Predator is something that every player needs to experience for themselves at least once from both sides of the battlefield. Now the deck is quite expensive, so I would strongly recommend leaving Solomon behind. You just won't have enough Tiberium to use the Ion Cannon with any reliability here, unless you are really far ahead of the game anyways, at which point ultimately it's pointless. Strong Arm, also for a change, has no real synergy here, or use for the turret. So Jackson and Liang are definitely the way to go for this deck. Finally now, we come to my favourite part of each Intel Report video, which apparently only a small percentage of you stick around for, the featured replay. Let's jump right into that. Jade Zion on the left is running the MSV full factory Liang variant deck, and Jen on the right is running his modified Jade Scavenger deck. Will he be able to take Jade down this week? We will have to see. So both players open up with Harvesters trundling straight to the northern fields. Jade opens up with War Dogs, Jen brings out the Militants. It's a bit of a naff situation for Jen. Those War Dogs are going to cut through those Militants, but the Scavengers will take some damage and will at least get the cost of those Militants back. Jade on the left hand side has pulled out the MSV and got that set up on the bottom left pad. A Shatterer quickly gets boosted on its way to the right to see if it can deal with those Scavengers and finish off those Militants. It's not happening. The bikes come in, Jen is already prepared, Jade takes out there, but again the bikes and the Scavengers are just microing around and making things difficult for Jade. That said, the movement speed buff from the MSV does mean that she can quickly redeploy, and that Pipple has a frightening attack speed where it's able to quickly dump in there, move up and down at the north, and just pound those bikes while taking almost no damage in return, though the Lang repair drone is healing up what's there as well. Sadly, it does appear that Pipple isn't quite able to take out the Scorpion, but it does very well. The boosted Predator then starts punching those bikes, and Scavengers come in to help clean up quickly, earning Jen the 10 type in. Sadly, even a boosted Pitbull isn't able to make it up on that top pad in time. Jen does block it beautifully. The first missile goes to Jen. This is not a great start for Jade. She seems to be struggling here. Those Scavengers are dealing some hefty damage both to the MSV and taking almost nothing back from the Predator. That said, time for Jade to bring out a Shatterer. The Shatterer quickly gets boosted by the MSV and punches 50% of those poor Chem Troopers straight away. She moves back as the bike comes in, brings a Predator into range, and again you can just see that Jade is using the MSV to great effect, just diving in and out, and getting that buff onto the unit that needs it the most. In this case, the Pitbull coming in to take care of that Banshee. The damage that Pitbull can kick out is just insane, combined with the fact that the Pitbull is also receiving the boost from, is receiving the healing from the healing drone. It's just straight up Jade is really using that to great effect, taking that buff, using it, moving the units around just to get the very most out of it. And that slingshot, of course, clears up that Banshee nice and quickly as well. Now here again, Jen does try to move in and see if his attack bikes can take out that MSV. A Banshee comes in to hold some ground. Jade is a little on the ropes, but, you know, at this point in time, things are holding out. She's holding ground, the missile is staying yellow, it's not charging in anyone's favour, there is still yet time. That slingshot cleans up 2 of the Banshees, but the scavengers do earn a little bit back. I'm not entirely certain what this Banshee thinks it's going to be able to do. That is going to take some hefty damage, but unless Jade can take that top pad back from those bikes, no, but she moves on to the bottom one, knowing full well that Predator is not going to die anytime overly soon. To those scavengers and the Banshee, it stays in. She's able to take the top pad and keep that missile in yellow. The missiles is now charging in blue. Jen cannot get anything onto that top pad in time. The second missile again goes to Jade. At the bottom, a MSV boosted Predator comes in, deals some hefty damage to that Scorpion, manages to take it out before it's killed, and again the Shatterer boosted just melts those poor scavengers. They had no chance. A boosted MSV Pitbull comes up, starts punching into that Banshee. The Banshee, I shouldn't have swapped target. Had you kept target on there, Jen, that would have been yours. And again, the Shatterer, the damage and speed that Shatterer can move at, it's just insane. Now with a boosted slingshot around as well, Jade is essentially saying, no, I am not having any more of your Banshees, but there comes the Catalyst missile. I was wondering when we'd get one of those, but the scavengers just cannot make it through. The Pitbull is body blocking at the top there. Jade is, I think by the things of it, just willing to sacrifice that. No, back on the pad, Jade, back on the pad. Jade is just willing to sacrifice the Shatterer in the bottom there just to hold out for as long as she can. A boosted Jen does manage to take back over, but a boosted Predator quickly finishes off the bike, steals that bottom pad. The missile flips to blue and goes to Jade. Jade, our reigning champion, still remains in the top spot, unbeaten in these featured replays. Well done, Jade. Well done, Jen. Some fantastic stuff going on in that one.